thank you for coming this evening. And the first portion of our meeting is being dedicated to what is called the Draft Environmental Impact Statement in reference to land into trust by the Cayuga Indian Nation. There was a draft that was issued, I'm going to say about a month ago. Is that right, Rich? And it was withdrawn. The original draft in no way addressed the issues and impacts of what a land claim, sovereign nation land within Seneca and Cayuga counties would have on all of us. So it was withdrawn. We hope probably because of some of the protests that were made by the law firm that does represent both counties, which is Harris Beach. And we're now waiting for another draft environmental impact statement that will be forthcoming. Both Seneca and Cayuga counties are having meetings. A meeting last night was held in Cayuga County. There is another meeting later this evening in the village of, or the town of Barrick, and there will be one later in the week in the town of Fayette. Both counties have formed a task force, basically, that's overseeing and participating in the review of the Cayuga Indian Nation's land into trust application. Again, this is just one of some meetings that will be taking place in the future. And the purpose of the discussion this evening is to discuss the status of the application and environmental review process. Another item would be to an overview of counties' comments and concerns, and then how your comments and concerns can best be heard. The time for those comments and concerns will be coming up at the time this draft environmental impact statement is reissued. Tonight we have with us two representatives from Harris Beach, Richard Rising, if you just raise your hand, Rich, and Joe Pacioti. Rich is on the public relations marketing side of Harris Beach Law Firm, and Joe is an attorney that's working on this particular case for both counties. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to them for their presentation, at which point, once they finish, we would welcome any comments, but we would also ask you to remember that written comments are not being asked for at this time, but we want to wait till the draft environmental impact statement does come out. Additionally, I'd like to recognize some people that are here this evening. Suzanne Sinclair, our county manager, is here. Suzanne. The mayor of Seneca Falls, Diana Smith, is here. Dr. David Dresser, who is chairperson of the Native American Affairs Committee at the county level. Brad Jones and Richard Rickey are here. They're members of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Actually, Brad is the chairperson. Chuck Lafler, our chairperson of the board, is here this evening. And I know there's some other people here, but I know Bob McKebney is here from the school district, and we have some other concerned citizens. Jim Terryberry, I'm sorry, Jim, another county board member. So with that, I'll turn it over to, I guess, Rick, if you would.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us, and thanks for coming tonight. In part, I hope to listen to our presentation and discuss a little bit about how we collectively can impact the process. That's really what the point that we're at. You're all very familiar with aspects of the application. I'm going to do a very broad brush introduction about that. My colleague Joe Pacioti, who is the head of our environmental unit at Harris Beach, is going to talk a little bit about some of the concerns that the counties have expressed to date on the process and the application. And then we'd like to get into somewhat of a dialogue and a conversation with you about how can we impact the process going forward? How can we make a difference as we review the draft environmental impact statement? By way of background, and again, many of you are very familiar with the subject. The application of the Cayuga Indian Nation was submitted to the Bureau of Indian Affairs in April 2005. 129 acres were involved in the application, which are located in 3 towns and 2 counties, town of Montezuma, town of Springport, the town of Seneca Falls, obviously, and the village of Union Springs. Currently, the land use on those properties involve 2 gas stations and convenience store, a car wash, a campground, 2 closed gaming operations as of a couple of years ago, as you know, and several vacant parcels. One of concern is a large parcel in the village of Union Springs of 108 acres. All of this is part of about a 64,000 acre, quote, claim area in both counties. About 2/3 of the land is in Cayuga County, and roughly 1/3 of that 64,000 acres are located in Seneca County. Here are the groupings of parcels is actually several parcels within each of those areas. But the Montezuma parcel, the three parcels in Union Springs, which really make up the bulk of the 129 acres, small parcel in Springport, and of course the parcels that you're familiar with, hopefully, in the town of Seneca Falls. On that issue, we have provided some more detail on the specific parcels and the specific location in the town of Seneca Falls, and if you haven't picked it up as a handout, you certainly might find that helpful. What is the significance of a successful application, one that the Bureau of Indian Affairs approves? The result of that, the land would be placed in trust, sovereign land legally owned by the United States government. As a consequence of that, there would be no required payment of property tax, sales tax, or special district taxes. Also of concern is the property would not be subject to local and state regulation. That includes a whole gamut of environmental regulations, health regulations, building and development regulations, again at the town, county, and the state level. The application has specifically indicated that the Cayuga Indian Nation would restore the gaming operations that were closed 2 years ago. Other establishments might be developed or existing establishments expanded on the property in the future. Again, all of this activity would be exempt from taxation and regulation. And one of the concerns we have, and we'll talk more about, is the cumulative effect of this application. Is this a precedent? Will future land and trust applications be submitted to the BIA beyond the 129 acres? It's been reported that approximately 900 acres are owned by the nation in both counties, largely in Seneca County. A preponderance of that is the town of Seneca Falls. And that land purchases, as you know, are expanding and continuing. So that is a concern for us as well. The application must go through a required review process. We're all familiar, or many of you are familiar with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, known as SEQR. That's a state environmental review process that's required for local and state actions. Comparable to that is a federal process required by the National Environmental Policy Act 1969. It's known as the NEPA process, very similar to the SEQR process. NEPA requires the BIA to identify and evaluate environmental impacts, not only the physical impacts that you would traditionally think of associated with development, but also the social and the economic impacts. The Bureau of Indian Affairs must consider alternatives and measures to minimize identified significant environmental impacts. That's a key element. All of this gets pulled together, this analysis gets pulled together in a draft environmental impact statement report, which I'll refer to as DEIS. We did, as Supervisor Same indicated, see a pre-release version of that a couple months ago, and we're waiting for the final DEIS to come out. And that'll be the time to really activate the public comment period. And BIA is in fact required to solicit and consider and respond to all public comments during that public comment review period. If BIA approves the application, it may modify it. It may require certain alternatives and actions be put in place that mitigate and lessen the impact of some of the environmental impacts identified through the process. Key point is we need your comments. This has been a long process, I know, in this community and others, but we really are at a crucial point of trying to impact the application and the environmental review process. The DEIS, as Joe will talk a little bit more, could be released tomorrow. It could be released in 3 months. We really don't know the timing, but it is something on the immediate horizon, we believe. It'll start a 45-day public comment period, and BIA will set and hold their own public hearing during that 45-day period. We expect there will be one hearing that BIA will hold. It's possible they could hold more than one.